Good afternoon, Bison fans, and welcome to our virtual Bucknell Wrestling Season Preview. My name is Todd Newcomb, and I'm joined today by Maisha Kelly, our Senior Associate AD for Development. And we want to take this opportunity to thank Giant for sponsoring this year's Season Preview Luncheon Series. We've got a great lineup for you today, featuring head coach Dan Wernsberger and three of our current wrestlers, Zach Hartman, David Campbell, and Brandon Seidman. But before we begin with Coach Wernsberger, we do want to acknowledge that the program has indeed already begun competition. The Bison hosted a very successful round-robin tournament with LIU and VMI a few weeks ago here in Gerhard Fieldhouse. 6 wrestlers went undefeated on the day for Bucknell, and 5 freshmen also picked up their first collegiate victories. The Bison are getting set to head to West Virginia this weekend, where they will take on the Mountaineers, as well as the 19th ranked Oklahoma Sooners on Sunday. Time now to welcome in Coach Wernsberger. Dan, thanks for joining us today and welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Nuke. Thanks, Maisha. Good to be with you guys.
So we're going to set the stage with some questions about returning to competition and how that's been, and I'm going to turn it over to Maisha for that portion of our program.
Thanks, Todd.
Sure.
Dan, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you too. Yeah.
Welcome to our audience. So we're just going to dive right in and tell us how good does it feel to be back in the Graham building and back on the mats for you, your staff, and student athletes?
Yeah, it's obviously phenomenal. It's a fantastic feeling. When we got to that event on January 3rd, it was interesting. I saw just a post from our athletic trainer, Kristen Klinger, and she had posted it had been 302 days since our last competition. That's a long time. And during that time, there was, obviously a little disconnect between the team as well, where they weren't together and you didn't have that team camaraderie and just togetherness that you're used to having. So it was a process. So just to get to that point, someone had asked me, hey, what did you think of just being back in competition? I was just grateful that we were just there on January 3rd competing, regardless of what the result was or looked like. I was just happy that, we had our team back. And, we were on campus and we were competing. So it was a fantastic feeling, I think, not just for the coaching staff, but for the guys involved and then their families, right? I mean, that's why they came to Bucknell, was to sign up and compete as Division I student athletes. And it was just nice to be back together.
That's great. And so 302 days, wow, we know certainly lots of planning and preparation to get us to that point. Talk about what some of the protocols are that you and the student athletes and your staff are dealing with on a daily basis to be able to return to play.
Sure, and it is day to day, and there's a lot that goes along with this, behind the scenes. And I know Tim Pavlechko has been a big part of it. Our athletic training staff has been a huge part of it. Just the planning that goes into place from the administrative side, and then it's up to the coaches and the student athletes then to execute the game plan. Right. So we lay a lot on our student athletes as far as, hey, we can control things within the Graham building, within the structure of the practices and coming back. But a lot of responsibility falls on these guys away from the athletic arena as far as what they're doing and making sure they're staying safe, they're staying well, they're avoiding those large groups. They're staying healthy as far as masking up when they do go out, if they have to go out to the store, washing their hands. So a lot falls on them, and it's been fantastic. They're extremely responsible about it. They're just so happy to be back. And, from the coaching standpoint and athlete standpoint, hey, tell me whatever I got to do to get back in there, we'll do it. Right. At this point, you want me to wear 3 masks, we'll do that. But and we've done small groups, right? It's been a little sacrifice from the coaching standpoint as far as, hey, we're running double the practices now. If we're doing typically 2 a days, now we're doing 4 a days because we're breaking the guys up into small groups and just making sure that our guys are safe and healthy. And if someone would get COVID and through the contact tracing, hey, it doesn't wipe out the whole team. So we've done a good job of executing that plan thus far, but it's day to day. Like this COVID world that we're used to, it's day to day, and just being willing and able to adapt on the fly.
Sure. And certainly is tracking those protocols and the weekly testing and multiple times a week. I know that your program's going through. So great to hear how that's making itself way through the team and being responsible. And certainly through that planning, not only for the health and safety, which of course is our number one priority for student athletes and staff and associated staff members, but part of that planning also had to be, what was the competitive schedule going to look like? And so Can you
Yeah.
talk about any input conversations that you and your peers in the EIWA had as it related to the competitive schedule, and then also how you were going to be flexible if you needed to pivot because of a postponement or
Yeah.
a COVID outbreak?
Yeah, that's been the scheduling has been a challenge. It's been an ongoing conversation for months with the EIWA head coaches. We meet every Monday at noontime and just talk amongst ourselves as far as, hey, how does this look? How is the shortened season going to work? What's the best way to schedule just to get with a shortened season? You want to get your athletes as many matches as possible so they're gaining the right amount of experience. And at the same time, following the protocol, number one of the NCAA, but number two, each institution becomes a little bit different, right? So I think I put a schedule together and then it changed once I had my shortened schedule together, just based on protocol where, no weekday matches, including Fridays. So I had some Fridays in there. So we had to change and tweak that. But I wasn't the only program, a handful of the EIWA teams, same deal and you can't wrestle back-to-back days. You can wrestle a couple on the same day. So it was an ongoing conversation. But we tried to follow, hey, what are some other leagues doing? What other conference doing? Knowing ours is unique and a little different. And we found something that worked within our league, and the format that seems to be working is, we wrestle in dual meets, but we're wrestling extra matches within the dual meet format, or we're doing tri meets and doing like we did our first competition round robin, so our guys can just get matches, not so worried about the team score or the dual meet format and getting the win that way. But it becomes about the student athlete in a shortened season and making sure they have enough matches, but safely. Where they're not, where it's been 300 some days since they competed, and all of a sudden we're not going to go wrestle 5-6 matches in a day, but maybe 2 to 3 at the most in one day. But making sure that we do it safely and that we have 6 consecutive weekends of some sort of competition before the postseason begins, our EIWAs.
Right. Creativity is for sure, I think, going to be a common theme as we try to provide for opportunities, right? And so
Yeah.
talk about, what do you think, and have there been the physical, from a physical and mental standpoint, the impact that all of this has had on student athletes during the last 10 months now, 302 days?
Sure. I think it's definitely had an impact. But it's how you process it, right? It's up to the individual and what you let affect you, to what degree you let it affect you. And you could really look at this from the standpoint of, man, I'm really bummed out, and from the negative side of things and just complain and gripe about it. Sure, there's a lot of things to complain about, but then at the same time, we try to gather our teammates together, and encourage each other, the staff with the student athletes, and say, hey, yeah, this is a bummer for sure, but we're going to get through this, and we're going to get through this together. And we're not the only ones going through it. And we are going to get back to the process of competing again, no matter what it looks like. We'll find a way, and we're in that spot. So as long as you have the right mindset, and that's what it comes down to, the mindset and how you react to any type of adversity that you face. And that's why in wrestling, I mean, we face a lot of it throughout the course of a season, the highs and lows and the ups and downs, like any athlete does. So I think they're able to handle it and deal with it a little better as long as we have each other. And I think that's the biggest thing, is not to be isolated, not to think you're on an island by yourself, but to have each other and to have the support of your teammates, to have the support of your coaching staff, and knowing that the university and the administration is supportive as well, that they're doing, I just know our athletics department was doing everything possible in their power to get our student athletes back on the practice mat or field or the court, however that looks, and in the competition arena at the end of the day. So we just try to be grateful and thankful that even though it's a shortened season, it doesn't look like it normally does. Man, we're just happy to be back and with each other.
So Dan, I mentioned earlier that you had an opportunity to get the guys out on the mats a few weeks ago, and in that round robin tournament. So you got to see some of the first years for the first time in a competitive arena and competitive setting. And now you've got, you had the Hofstra match was postponed because of a positive test within their program. So you had a week off, and this weekend you're set to hit the road for 2 competitive matches. How do you feel going into this weekend about the team in terms of where they are competitively?
Yeah, I feel good about it. I think we've had a really good week of preparation, and I've noticed it just in our practice room. The energy level, the positivity has been there all week. And maybe it wasn't so much there last week because, there's a week in between or a weekend in between. So we tried to, with losing that competition, the Hofstra match, we tried to simulate still what a dual meet would look like with an hour weigh-ins, hour off the scale, getting on the mat. And we did that just within our own group. this past Sunday, but it's been good. And our strength coach, when I'm getting an email off the cuff from Coach Schreck, our strength coach, said, "Hey, your guys had a great week in the weight room, high energy. They were real positive, look good." That makes me feel good because I'm seeing the same thing in the practice room, right, in the preparation process. So yeah, we got a big test in front of us. It's going to be a good measuring stick. Not so much for the team, but for our individuals, right? And I'm excited to watch these guys go out there and compete against a couple Big 12 opponents. And that's what we want to do. We want to challenge our guys against the best competition in the country, and whether it's a couple Big 10 teams or Big 12 teams or ACC teams, and go see where we stand at this point in the year and what we need to do or what we're doing really well and we need to continue to do. And it's just preparation for our ultimate goal at the end of the season.
So you've got returning All-American Zach Hartman in your lineup, and he's consistently been ranked in the national polls. I think this week he's ranked in Intermat and Flow Wrestling's top 10. What makes Zach so successful, and what does it mean to the program to have him getting such great national exposure?
It's pretty simple formula for Matt. For Zach, it's consistent lifestyle. I mean, the guy never misses a beat. His lifestyle stays the same pretty much 24/7. It's just as far as his diet and his nutrition, his academic studies, and staying on top of that. Socially, what he's doing, making sure he's getting enough rest, putting the time in the practice room as far as the preparation goes. He's taking care of his body all the time. So, I mean, it's not a surprise that he's very consistent in the national rankings and with his performance. Just the way he lives each and every day is a great example for the rest of the guys on the team. He's a fantastic leader, and we're just fortunate to have him, leading our group on a daily basis.
That's Dan. I'm actually going to expand upon that. I mean, so Zach excels, and as you mentioned, has excelled in the classroom as a pre-med biology major. Has had a perfect GPA and great academic success. Can you expand a little bit on how you think that leadership influences the other members of the team?
Sure. I mean, when you got, your best guy on your team, a returning All-American that's doing certain things, I would think, that becomes contagious. That lifestyle becomes contagious, and anyone that's got a competitive spirit within them or has a mindset or a goal to be a national champ and to get this private school education at the highest level, you're going to want to mirror that, and some of my best guys that have come through here, like Andy Rendos or Kevin LaValle, they're always, or, Dave Marble, they're picking an older guy and they want to mirror what that older guy is doing. And how is he doing it? And, it's something we talk about, say, hey, look at what Zach Hartman's doing on a daily basis, how he's living. Look at David Campbell, what he's doing. Look at Brandon Seidman and how neat and orderly he keeps his locker, and his life is always in check and in order. And, everything else seems to go pretty well. When you look at every aspect of their life, I mean, all these guys are pretty spot on as far as, hey, where they're at, what they're doing, and how are they doing it. Nothing is really out of sorts. And that just gives you it doesn't guarantee anything, but it just gives you the best chance and the best opportunity to be successful and to reach their ultimate goals that these guys have individually.
So certainly, Dan, you've got the great leadership from your upperclassmen. Let's shift gears and talk about your freshman class, which obviously was a strong recruiting class. It features 3 PIAA state champions among the ranks. What have the newcomers brought to the program, and what do you think we can expect from them in the future?
Sure. I think what they brought, and it was just really recognizable and noticeable, is like this morning, where as coaches, we're watching like 3 of our freshmen in one of these groups, and just their competitiveness. They do not like losing in practice. They take it personal. It means something to them, when they're upset after losing a go. And that's a good thing as long as they can process it the right way. And those are the days when you get better and you make your greatest gains as an athlete, when you might not necessarily win the practice, that you have a little bit of a struggle, but your effort and your competitive spirit is still maintained throughout the duration of the practice. And that's what I see with these young guys. I'm excited about the future of this current freshman class that we have, with guys that are in our lineup right now, like a Kurt Phipps, Logan Sanum, Nick Delp, Dorian Crosby at heavyweight, Austin Wally, who was our starting 184 pounder until his injury. But excited about the future of this group. Obviously, they're going to have to show something and show a lot of consistency with it, because it's just beginning. It's just the start. So the whole process is, hey, can I be consistent throughout, not just for a short time or a duration, but throughout the practice, throughout the week, throughout the competition, throughout the season, and then obviously throughout your career.
Dan, given that in the presence of a strong incoming class, how does that dynamic flow into competition and training when mixing in what also is the upperclassmen so that return to the team this year as well?
Yeah, I think it makes the practice room more competitive. And when the practice room becomes more competitive, the intensity level it rises. It rises within the whole group, the whole team. Knows that they have to be ready and spot on, no matter what kind of day they've had. When practice starts, I got to be ready to compete, right? Because your performance and how you prepare during the course of the week or throughout practices, whether it's on the mat or in the weight room or conditioning, that obviously carries over to the competition arena. You can't just, not at this level anyway, afford to, hey, I had one good practice, a couple weren't so great, I didn't try that hard, whatever it was. And you're not going to be able to flip the switch or snap your fingers in competition day and have the result you want. I think in high school, you can still get a lot of athletes can still get away with that just based on their talent level or their physicality over their opponents, where they necessarily don't feel good or didn't prepare great, but still go out and dominate. I think at the Division I collegiate level, man, everything evens out, and you got to be ready to go. And what these guys have brought, it makes the entire room, upperclassmen, freshmen, no matter what year you are, you're in for a battle that day, and you want to try to win the practice.
So Dan, before we bring in the student athletes we have on the show today, one final question for you, and it's simply this: what has to happen for your program to have the best possible season it can in 2021?
We have to stay healthy. I'll tell you what, I'll be honest. My goal, is yeah, we always keep the goal of, hey, we want to get as many guys on that. We want an EIWA champion or champions. We want to get as many guys placing at the EIWA tournament as possible. We want to qualify as many guys for NCAAs. We want to bring home All-Americans, possibly, hopefully, our first national champ. But a win for me, I'll be honest, is that we go into EIWA tournament with 10 healthy starters. I'm going to feel really accomplished about that as a group, that we all did this collectively together with 10 healthy starters when we get to EIWAs. That's a win. And then anything can happen from there as far as our place winners, our EIWA champions, NCAA qualifiers, All-Americans, and national champs.
Well, Dan, thanks again for your time today, and best of luck to you and the team this weekend and beyond this season.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot, Nuke. Thanks, Maisha.
All right, time now to welcome our three wrestlers to the program. Our first guest is junior 165-pounder Zach Hartman, who hails from Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining us today, Zach.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Zach, I'm going to start off and ask you the same question that I asked Coach Warrensberger. With stopping the season short of certainly those opportunities last March, and now all that was experienced throughout the summer and the fall, and you and your teammates were able to get back on the mats a couple weeks ago. How did it feel?
It felt amazing, to be honest. Like, I know just looking at the guys and like the energy that we bring into the room, like I don't feel like we miss a beat. Like, I know it was a little shortcoming last year with like nationals getting canceled, and it was a long drought. Like you guys said, like there's 302 days between like the last time that we actually competed. And so, I mean, getting back this year, it was an amazing feeling, and it was an even better feeling just seeing that everyone was on the same page. Everyone had that one goal in mind, the camaraderie that we just share as a team. Like, it was all there. And so I felt really good returning this year, and likewise with everyone on the team.
Zach, I've got a two-part question for you. First part, as one of the team captains, what's been your message to your teammates, especially the underclassmen, throughout the ups and downs of the pandemic? And then the second part of the question is, how hard has it been to make the sacrifice to be here on campus and not see your family over the holidays in order to compete this season?
So for that first one, advice that I was giving to underclassmen, honestly, I give it to absolutely anyone that asks for my advice, is don't expect to do the big things right if you can't get the little things right. And so especially through the pandemic, like we have a surplus of time on our hands. Like we have nothing but time a lot of times. And so it's a matter of what habits do you form, and like what little things do you do right that no one sees, that ultimately dictates how successful you are, like you are on the mat, in the classroom, as a person. And so I'm really harping on just the fact of like something little, like when you clean the dishes, like do you clean them right? Do you clean them all the way? Like it's those kind of actions that kind of play into the bigger role of wrestling, of being that top-notch student, being that person that's there to help someone out on the streets. And so like it's more about the little things. And so instead of trying to like micro like instead of trying to have like a micro lens on just like this national trophy, this national title, you should more so have this ideology to I need to do everything that I have power over, like in my control, and I need to do it right. And I can't just let the little things scrape by, because the greatest paintings in the world aren't the ones that just look beautiful from afar. It's the ones that have like the little tiny details, and it's more about the little details I'll get you to where you want to be. And then for that second question, it was just not being able to see my family, and that's been a little rough. I mean, it's a little bit easier on my conscience, especially with only being like 3.5 hours away, even though I can't see them. But it's just having that kind of mental note in my head of just like, oh, my mom and dad are 3.5 hours down the road. Like if everything goes haywire, I know at the end of the day, like I don't even care what happens throughout the day. I am still only 3.5 hours away. And I mean, I thank God for the technology today, like FaceTime. You can do absolutely anything with your phone nowadays. And so it's been okay. It's been okay with kind of getting through this without my family being there, or like not being able to like physically see my family. But at the end of the day, I know they're rooting for me and they're in my corner, and that's all I can ask for.
Zach, I think it can be said that you've got some unfinished business with the cancellation of the NCAA tournament last year. And so, what does that mean for you this season as far as what you want to accomplish personally, but then also for the team?
Well, I feel like last year I really broke a barrier that I kind of had set for myself, in terms of like I took a lot of time over the past, like I don't know how many months, but I took a lot of time to fix the little kinks that I had, and I feel really good. Like I feel prepared to go. Like I'm ready to pick up back at EIWAs. I know I got to get there first, and I'm excited for that road. But man, as soon as EIWAs are over and nationals, I'm just chomping at it now. Like that's all I have. And for the guys, I know they're right there with me. Like we have more guys than ever that are goal oriented like that, like where we all have this collective goal at the end of the day that we can all push towards and work for as a team. And it's really nice, especially with the incoming freshmen. Like it's a work of art, honestly.
That's great. Zach, thanks so much for joining us and for sharing your thoughts, and best of luck to you this season.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Our next wrestler is senior David Campbell, a 141 pounder from Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania. And we want to welcome David to the show. And Dave, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here.
So I want to begin with a question that you probably get asked pretty often. Do people ever confuse you with your identical twin brother, Jacob, who's also a member of the team?
Yes, all the time. All the time.
So what's the experience been like for the two of you? I mean, was that an advantage in that you had a natural sparring partner that you could work out with over the breaks that we've had throughout this pandemic?
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely it's a blessing and a curse. Having a kind of like a built-in training partner. We have a mat in our basement, so we're able to work out when we want to. We're pretty much the same size, so it's great. We can kind of get our workouts in. We didn't really have to worry about going anywhere, so we didn't really have to worry about getting sick or anything like that. So it's great. And then even someone having like an extra set of eyes in the room, just to kind of, if one of us has a bad day, we'll go back. We live together, so when we go back to our apartment, just kind of keep each other positive and get each other ready for whatever the next thing is, whether it's a dual meet, practice, workout, whatever it is. it's nice to kind of have that built-in like support system. It's great.
David, last fall, we saw so many institutions nationally decide to be fully remote with their instruction. And Bucknell did something that I think we were all pretty proud of. We're able to come back in person for the 14-week semester. What did that mean to you and your teammates to be able to be on campus this past fall?
It was nice. We were all really happy and grateful to still be together. We got some workouts in when we could. Obviously, it was really hard with different restrictions, and then with some different shutdowns with some university outbreaks. But we're happy to be here. We're really grateful for the opportunity. I know you have to look at the positive sides where some schools didn't get to go back, and some teammates haven't seen each other since last March. So we're all really happy that we got to see each other this fall and coming up this spring too. So you always have to look at it from a positive side. We're all really grateful that we got to see each other, got some workouts in, got better, and we're able to keep each other positive too. So we're all really, really excited about that. That Bucknell did kind of like a hybrid system this past fall, and then even this coming up this spring too. So we're all excited to be here.
So we spoke to Coach earlier in the show about some of the challenges that he, as a coach, and the coaching staff have faced with the protocols and the changes in the way we do things right now. What are some of those challenges, and from a student athlete perspective, have you dealt with those?
I mean, we get COVID tested 3 times a week for competition. So our training staff does a great job. KK, Kristen Planer, she always does a great job with making sure, she reminds us when our COVID tests are, making sure the guys are feeling good and as healthy as possible to go out there and compete at our highest level. So obviously it's a little tough having to split in 2 groups. Like sometimes you feel like there's a little void, not a void in the team, but we're not as close as teammates as we could be as a full group, but that just kind of comes with the territory with the guidelines and stuff. So, I mean, that's definitely been a little challenging and difficult as a team perspective, but the energy's still there. I mean, we all really want everyone to win. We're still a team. We're still a family. Got to have a family bond together. So there are just little bumps in the road. You just got to get by them to be able to do what you want to do and compete at this level.
David, as always, we appreciate your time and your thoughts today, and wish you the best of luck this weekend, and get that eye healthy, will you?
Yeah, I will. Thank you so much.
All right. So our final guest today is junior 125-pounder Brandon Seidman. Brandon is from Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and we want to welcome Brandon to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Brandon, thanks again for being here. So you've been a member of the program for a few years now. How would you say you've evolved as a wrestler, and what expectations do you have of yourself and the team during this season?
I'd say as a wrestler, I've definitely matured. Coming in my freshman year, I was definitely a little bit undersized. And I've just been working on getting bigger and stronger and just developing my wrestling game as a whole. And collectively as a team, I feel as though this year more than others has been very positive and high energy. I'd like to credit the freshmen for that, especially. I feel as though they're a very competitive group, and just as a whole, we've become more competitive, especially in the practice room.
That segues perfectly into my question, Brandon. So you mentioned the practice room, and Coach alluded to the practice room and how competitive it is. For you, who's your toughest competitor in that mat room?
I'd say for me, it'd probably be my partner, Darren Miller. So our team is split into 2 groups right now, and every day we have the same practice partner just because of COVID regulations. And he definitely pushes me. He's a little bit bigger, which is good for me because it's just good to have a bigger partner because he's a weight class above. But he definitely brings the heat every single day and is ready to go. So it's really good for me and helps me push me.
So second part of that question, which individual on the team do you look up to and respect the most?
I would just say our 3 captains, Zach, David Campbell, and Matt Colonia, who's not on right now. I feel as though they set a really high expectation and bar for everybody as a whole. And they're always motivating and supporting us to show up to practice every day, in and out, show up to competition, manage our weight, And not only that, but they just set a good example just by doing what they do. I know Coach Warrensberger touched on that a little bit as far as lifestyle goes, having a routine, being consistent, and so forth.
Brandon, one of the biggest changes this year is certainly not having fans at competitions and wanting to continue to be prioritizing health and safety for student athletes and for everyone. And so, with no fans, teammates who aren't competing, what does that mean in a regular season when the fans are there? And what are you going to look to draw on this season for motivation and how you go about those matches without that component?
Well, I definitely have to look towards my teammates for getting support and them replacing the fans. I mean, without having fans, it is what it is, but it's just another thing that we have to deal with and look at it from a positive perspective. But I definitely say that my teammates get me going, and we all support each other a good bit. So it's almost like we do have fans, but not actually.
Certainly fans there in spirit, just like we will be here in Lewisburg. Brandon, thank you so much for spending some time with us, and best to you and your teammates this season.
Thank you.
All right. Well, special thanks to all of our guests today. We certainly appreciate their time. And that just about wrap up today's show. We want to thank Jeffrey Campbell, Jen DeBias, Jess O'Shaughnessy for their assistance with today's event. Our next event in our season preview series, sponsored by Giant, will be on Monday at noon, and will feature the men's water polo program. As a reminder, a complete schedule of the preview shows can be found at www.bucknellbison.com. Good afternoon, everyone, and go Bison.